You're listening to Refracted World with Terry Geo. Episode 23. Are we living in a simulation? Now, this is a ridiculous question. Of course we're not living in a simulation. I can think, I can see, I can smell, I can love, I can decide what I want to eat, where I want to walk to, who I want to interact with. I have memories, I can learn. In essence, I am a flesh and blood human being living on a planet in an almost infinite universe that we can observe. Surely that proves we are not in a simulation. So if I know all of this, and you know all of this, why does the question keep popping up? Why are so many scientists and philosophers obsessed with this question? And why is it that every single year the likelihood that we are in a simulation becomes greater? Let's explore. In 1972, Alan Alcorn created a computer training exercise for Atari. They loved it. And in 1975, they had released the first ever home console version of Pong, the 2D monochromatic game of table tennis. It was simple and yet groundbreaking. It is one of the very first video games ever created for the mass market. 50 years later, we can now enter virtual worlds and play table tennis on realistic tables in 360-degree environments. Technology has improved extremely fast, and gaming today is more like an immersive adventure through hyper-realistic worlds which cannot compare to gaming of the past. Developers are constantly pushing the boundaries of what computers can do. Look at Google Earth. It allows us to travel anywhere on the planet and our moon at the click of a button. The internet allows us to speak to people on the other side of the world instantaneously, and gaming allows us to control on-screen characters as if we were gods. And here is where we get the first chink in our chain. The Sims was first released by Electronic Arts in 2000 and was primarily the work of game designer Will Wright. He had been the mastermind behind the SimCity series from the late 80s and beyond. With The Sims, he envisaged a virtual dollhouse, which he more than succeeded in achieving. Over the next 24 years, The Sims and simulated reality games like The Sims have evolved to a place where digital characters now live their own lives. They sleep, go to work, eat, interact with friends, fall in love, get married, have kids, all autonomously. We can and do influence them from time to time, but we can also sit back and just watch things play out. They are born, they live, and they die. But they are just computer code, nothing more. These are not real beings. They were created for our enjoyment and live, in inverted commas, because we allow them to. And this is where the question arises for humanity. Are we an advanced version of The Sims? Was our planet, galaxy, universe created by someone or something for their enjoyment? To us, the universe is near infinite in size, but it could just be computer code. We don't have the technology to travel through space at all, really. The Voyager 1 and 2 satellites have been flying through our solar system for over 40 years, and although they have both passed all of our planets years ago, they are hundreds of years away from the surrounding layer of our solar system known as the Oort cloud, and at current speeds, they will not leave the Oort cloud for around 30,000 years. And we are just one of over 3,000 solar systems in the Milky Way. Even at close to light speed, it would take us 1 million years to travel the width of our galaxy, and our galaxy is one of approximately 200 billion just in the observable universe. Meaning no matter how advanced technology becomes, we will likely never explore the universe outside of our own galaxy. Maybe that's by design. Maybe there is no wider universe at all. Maybe there isn't even a wider galaxy, and all we have is our bubble of a solar system. Everything else could be a backdrop created by computer code to give the illusion of a grand universe that doesn't exist and we will never be able to get to. Have you ever wondered where all the aliens are? Surely, if we live in a massive universe with so many habitable planets around so many solar systems, why aren't there any aliens? Why have we not found any trace of any other living being outside of planet Earth. The universe is almost 14 billion years old, and yet there is no sign of life outside of our planet. The human race has been around for about 250,000 years, as we currently are, and look how far we've advanced in that short time. Surely there should be life on most planets in all systems, and yet we find nothing. This is the Fermi paradox, and when we're not speculating about being a possible simulated reality, I will tell you all about it. But for now, maybe we've not found life because there isn't any. Maybe Earth really is the centre of the universe because the game or simulation that someone or something is playing is contained just to our planet. I can see the artwork now on the game box, a picture of the globe with the tagline, "When you play Earth, you decide who lives and who dies." Our solar system may exist as entities. We could go to and touch, but everything else is a backdrop for us, like the distant hills in a video game or a backdrop in a theatre. That could be our galaxy, our universe. Or it could be that everything is accessible, but only comes into realization when we, or something we send like a satellite or a probe, reaches it, just like what happens in an actual computer. It is rendered when we reach it. In the video game No Man's Sky, you can fly through an infinite universe and visit a limitless amount of solar systems, which all have their own planets and life forms, and we can fly to them, we can land on them, we can interact with them. But these systems and planets only exist for us when we reach them. It could be the same for our own universe. We are still at the very beginning of the tech revolution. With the advent of AI, and I know how scary that subject is, everything is being enhanced at a much faster pace than ever before. If you listen to my episode about virtual reality, you'll know that technology has evolved so much in just 5 years. The once blocky and out-of-sync graphics are now more lifelike, and the engines running this simulation are able to create whole worlds for us to traverse. Computer and console gaming, which run on next-gen chips, are able to provide photorealistic landscapes. Just think how advanced technology will be in the next 5 years, 10 years, or even 50 years. It has taken only 50 years to get where we are today, all the way from Pong. Where are we going to be in another half century? I don't think any of us could accurately predict where we will be. 500 years ago, Westerners had only just discovered the landmass of America, and by doing so inadvertently proved that the world wasn't flat. Leonardo da Vinci was painting an enigmatic smile onto Mona Lisa's face, and William Shakespeare was writing what would become the most prolific tragedy dressed up as a love story of all time. For most, old age was in their 30s back then. People believed faith could heal them, and everyone drank beer all day and all night because the water was mixed in with, and therefore tainted by, their own feces. We have come an exceptionally long way in 500 years. The Industrial Revolution at the turn of the 20th century was a huge turning point for our species, and a terrible one for the environment, but we weren't to know that for years later. But with it came a way of life that even in my childhood I would look on today as if we were living in a science fiction film. So how will the human race look in another 500 years? Building on what we have today, I don't think it's much of a stretch to imagine we will have the technology and capability to produce a simulation of our planet with 8 billion autonomous avatars living their virtual lives. And if that indeed is true, what's to say that it hasn't already happened and we are those avatars? We could be a small part of an alien's video game, or we could be a learning tool for future humans. Maybe some kid is scrolling through different timelines to look at how ancient humans coexisted in the 21st century. It is a possibility. And this is why, every year our technology evolves, the chances of us being in a simulation become more and more real. This idea was first proposed by Swedish philosopher Nick Bostrom back in 2003. He authored a paper entitled Living in a Computer Simulation. The paper is available online if you want to read it, but I will read you one passage from it though, which I think is as confusing as it is informative. Here's what it says. I argue that at least one of the following propositions is true. 1. The human species is very likely to become extinct before running a post-human stage. 2. Any post-human civilization is extremely unlikely to run a significant number of simulations of its evolutionary history or variations thereof. And 3. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. It follows that the belief that there is a significant chance that we shall one day become post-humans who run ancestor simulations is false, unless we are currently living in a simulation. End quote. So basically, humans will never be able to run a simulation of this magnitude unless we're already in a simulation, which I've either completely misunderstood or it is, as I suspect, contradictory at best. Philosophy. I think what he's trying to say is only simulated humans could pull off a simulation of our evolutionary history, but by doing so, that would mean we are in a simulation to begin with, so we did actually pull it off. It's confusing and exactly what you'd expect from a philosopher. Of course, this is not proof of anything, it's merely a theory. We also have to consider that all human beings are conscious, and we have free will and thought. Or do we? We could simply be code with the illusion of free will, giving us the ability to think for ourselves, but still within the parameters of our programming, which is mind-boggling to think about, but one which more and more people are considering. Humans have always questioned our own reality. Religion is a perfect example of us filling the voids of knowledge we once had, and as that knowledge has been discovered and learned, we are slowly transitioning away from religion. But that doesn't mean we don't have questions still. In fact, the more we know, the more questions arise. So is this question of us possibly being in a simulation merely the modern equivalent of religion? Instead of a magical sky daddy creating the universe and placing us in it, instead, future versions of ourselves have recreated us to research and learn about our own history. I believe we will always have these kinds of questions. The more understanding we have, the more knowledge presents itself, and the more questions arise. And this is especially hard because it's unlikely we will ever know the answers to the biggest questions of all: why we are here and what happens when we're not. The most obvious answer is probably true, that we live for a short time with a conscious brain, and when we die and our brain switches off, there is nothing for us. Which is a terribly depressing thought, and one most of us don't want to think about or indeed accept, which is why religion flourished so much. But there is hope that our consciousness lives on in the quantum realm. I would love to tell you more, but I don't really understand it yet myself. Once I've spent more time researching it, which could take months, I'll present my findings in an understandable way, like I always try to do. At the moment, it's a real head-scratcher, especially for someone like me who got a C in high school science and in maths. Anyway, this feeling that we are not exactly who we are is not a new thought experiment. One of the two foundational texts of Chinese Taoism includes the butterfly dream, the most famous story from the second chapter of the book. In it, the author dreams of being a butterfly, but on waking, he questions whether he is actually the butterfly who is dreaming of being a man. There are so many such examples littered throughout historical texts. For as long as humans have been conscious, we have tried to understand who we are and what our place is in the universe. So, if we are merely part of a simulation, what does that actually mean for you and I? Well, that depends on the simulation. If it is a faithful recreation of human history, then that would be bad, because that would mean nothing we do matters, as we are just playing our parts, which have already played out in history. Your thoughts and actions are not your own, and the free will you believe you have is merely a story playing out as intended. Or we are a part of some future video game, which, although is still code, doesn't follow a set pattern. We have free will because we are programmed to have it. Our unexpected actions make for a more unique and entertaining playthrough, which whoever's running the simulation enjoys. If we are in a simulation, I would like to believe we're in the second one, but we will never know. And I think that's the main takeaway from this. We will never likely know if we are living in a simulation or not. The likelihood will increase the more technologically advanced we become, but that's not really evidence. It's still just a theory. In the 1999 film The Matrix, Neo is told that the first Matrix was a perfect utopia that didn't work because humans need pain and conflict to believe in the world they are in. I never liked that line. I know we can look throughout history and see pain and suffering all across the globe, all through time, from the first human settlement to today, but I genuinely don't agree that this is what the entire populace wants. We all strive for a good life because, religious or not, we all know how incredibly short it is, and no one knows what happens after we die. If you take away religion and country borders, greed and racism, would that remove all conflict? In the short term, no. But in future generations, I'd like to think yes. Think about where you're standing or sitting right now. Think about the floor, and then think about the earth underneath that floor. We are all standing on one planet, and we are all one species of people, and we have all got the same dreams and thoughts and struggles, and we are so alike it's ridiculous. And yet we are always at conflict. We are always looking for faults in someone else. And why is this? It's because the people in positions of power are the ones who always spark conflict, and the rest of us are used as pawns to protect their power and status. If you've seen the film A Bug's Life, you'll know that that colony of millions of ants is invaded by a very small group of much bigger grasshoppers. They are controlled through fear and will likely be killed if they don't do the grasshoppers' bidding. But what the ants realise is that even though smaller, they have numbers on their side. And if they all come together, they can take down the grasshoppers and win back their freedom, which they ultimately do. I believe this is an allegory for the human race. We are billions in number, massively outnumbering those in power. Why do we continue to allow them to bully us, use us, and dictate our lives? And we don't need to take up arms and attack these people. We just need to say no to them. We need to band together and say no. But we can't do that because we are so segregated, because the people in power have made us so segregated. The strength of the sun dictates what colour skin someone has. Why should that have any relevance of what that person is like, or how you treat that person? Why do we have racism when all human life evolved in Africa, meaning all of our ancestors were once black? It's because for centuries we were told other races were bad, or degenerates, or less than. And even today, there are still far too many people who uphold and believe these lies and use their misguided hate to segregate, abuse, and kill other human beings who do not look or act like them. But they are still the same species. Perhaps the reason we have spent millennia fighting each other is because we are programmed to. Conflict makes better gameplay after all. Maybe our simulation is just one of millions of unique simulations, and in others, we do live harmoniously. We just happen to be in the one that the player likes war and death. Or we are not in a simulation at all. We are human beings, living on a ball of rock, hurtling through an endless sea of dark space, living out our incredibly short and often baffling lives as best we can. We come up with these theories of the whys, whens, and whats, knowing we will never know the answers. and just hope for the best outcomes, whatever they may be. Do I think we live in a simulation? Personally, no. I'm probably at 90% that we're not in a simulation. The raw power needed to generate all we have, all we've had, and all we can see would be so incredibly vast, I don't even think any species would even bother to create it. But who knows what the far future holds? We don't even know what tomorrow will bring. The best we can do is live an amazing life, be kind to every living being, and try to be a little less selfish. We are all the same, one species clinging on to this life as best we can. It's not easy for anyone, and the more empathetic we can be to our fellow passengers on planet Earth, the better life can be for all of us. And that's my feeling anyway. Thank you for listening to today's episode. This one made my brain fuzzy. Perhaps it did the same to you too. What we know and what we speculate and what we hypothesize are very different things. But keep what we know in the truth section of your brain and everything else in the theory/fantasy part. Because opinions and theories will never be fact until they are proven to be so. If you've listened to all my episodes so far and you still want more, fantastic. I do have a subscription-based program which is called RefractedWorld Plus. It's just £3 a month and you get extra episodes and you get to hear the new episodes before everyone else does. And if you're looking for merch, please check out my Etsy page. I've designed quite a lot now. I have been going on a bit of a design frenzy recently. I've even started making outfits and designs for Pride Month, which is in June. And yeah, they look kind of cool. I've done this unicorn one. Yeah, just check them out. They're really good. But if you do buy anything, please use the code podcast20 as it will give you 20% off everything. As I've said before, the t-shirts are expensive because they come from America and they're really high quality. I have now 9 of them. I can't stop buying them. I just love them so much. But I'm not wearing it today. Yeah, they're really cool, but they are expensive. But if you use the code, you get a t-shirt for under £20, including delivery, which, hey, I don't think you can get much for 20 quid these days. But anyway, yeah, the t-shirts are great and they last and they wash really well as well. So, yeah, so check them out if you want any merch, and if you do want to subscribe to my Refracted World Plus, then please do. And if not, I'm absolutely fine with that as well. I'm just glad you're here listening every week, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Until next week, I will be back here on Friday as always, and I hope you join me then. Until then, take care everyone, and goodbye.